materials I choose to use and where they come from, the sources that begin to feed the work in terms of the objects, how I acquire the objects, all those things talk about our communication level in the contemporary culture that we live in. My name is Rina Banerjee, and I'm an artist based in New York City. My title in terms of what kind of work I do has always been changing. It's very important to realize that that's always an ongoing conversation between the artist and the audience. My initial pursuit of my career or education was in engineering. I started with material science, which enabled me to really understand a lot about the work that I do now. I really found that there was a big commonality between the arts and the sciences, both of which are based on observation, and also because it really draws on nature. What nature is, what is our nature, what is the world around you. I think particularly pertinent now is this idea of that being one thing rather than many things. So the global aspect of making art really comes out of my engineering perception. I've always really loved working in airy, large spaces. The space, because of its daylight, invites a lot of play on natural items and the detail that it can expose. I think it's a way to really think about scale. The conversation that a large piece has with little things really takes us into that scale that allows us to talk about things we can hold in our hand versus the house we live in. Something that is monumental in size does not really necessarily have to be heavy. So there's some contradictions that I play upon that allow me to make the work large but soft, for example. The work that I'm sharing with you in the Atrium at MoCA Jacksonville is a work that is an installation. And I call it an installation because I'm bringing together really 3 sculptures. And these 3 sculptures have a conversation in the space. I decided to use 3 because I'm really talking about this division between nature, man, and woman. So I have the dome, which really for me is both a pod, a womb. It's the earth that made us. I have a mythological figure that I'm referencing. Her name is Sita. You will find it in Hindu mythology. The way the mythology wraps around this figure of a woman is that she's rejected from the world that man creates. And so Sita has to prove her purity to her husband. I think we have this idea that you can possess, exchange women, and that they have a lower value. And I think these are really important things in our current events that we're talking about. And I would hope that's what you take away from the story of Sita. The Hanuman, which you will see as the animal monkey, is a kind of omen of change, of transformation. The Hanuman can be a messenger of the future. So that becomes another figure in the 3-tier sculpture. The objects themselves also cater to that philosophy of aesthetics, where the objects are not transformed. So raw materials in my work are obvious. You can see when I use copper. You can see when I use fabric. That kind of accessibility and honesty with the materials allows viewers to really feel the origin of the object. A lot of things were once divided between the synthetic and the natural. And in reality, synthetic things comes out of nature. There's only one place to get something, and that's on the earth. It's always been a natural product. Because what we quote as man-made, it reframes it as if it's unconnected to nature. The authorship that we draw out of saying something is man-made is very relevant to our culture. And so the authorship is really about a conversation with nature, a conversation between every kind of division that we position in culture, whether it be gender, race, religion, what other kinds of names that we produce creates authorship, an expression. How do we produce contemporary culture out of all these divisions that force us to negate each other, to create friction between each other? Human culture itself is evolving, and the way we organize each other creates a better understanding of what life means for us as human beings. When we look to the past to know what the future is, we're at fault. We really need to look at the future as a place that we can do more than what we've done in the past. And that change is always inevitable and necessary to create a future.